Hello and welcome to the AskDrBen podcast. I'm your host, Ben Johnson. As a holistic-minded physician, I've spent the last 20 years looking outside the box and conducting research to find the true causes of skin conditions and other diseases. And while the focus of my work has been on aesthetic medicine and unlocking the secrets to reversing skin damage, this podcast will also include many other exciting revelations pertaining to you and your family's health and well-being. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AskDrBen podcast. Today, we're answering the question, why is my skin freaking out during this pandemic, and what are the things that I can do about it? I have a lot of great information, so appreciate you guys tuning in. I've spent 20 years researching the causes of skin conditions, and I've definitely learned how to identify the toxic sources and what could be causing your skin to quote unquote freak out during this time. Before I jump into that, I think I want to address just a couple of things on this whole pandemic issue at this time. I've been calling it accurately up to this stage. And so I think what I'm about to tell you, you can take to the bank, but obviously things are still unfolding. So currently my assessment is there are a handful of drugs being considered as a treatment for the virus, and those drugs do not actually have a significant impact on your body's ability to fight the virus. But more likely, what they're going to see in the research is that they recover faster, with quotations around it, similar to the way somebody who sprained their knee might recover faster on Motrin. Now, what you're going to learn from me is I'm not a fan of that model, because things that interfere with healing, which is what I believe is actually happening with the medication, it's interfering with your body's repair process, which can reduce swelling faster, but it does not improve the healing. And for me, this virus's lasting scar effect, well, we know for sure that it causes fibrotic changes to the lung. And so it's not something you take lightly. Like, it could permanently impact your ability to exercise and exercise tolerance into the future, amongst many other things, like a much lower tolerance to future infections, things like that. So in summary, I would tell you, be cautious going into the medications. Don't just take them thinking, oh yeah, any medication's better than no medication. There is some reported evidence that chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine cause permanent infertility. Also worry about people under the age of 40 taking this medication without giving it more serious consideration. And on that note, we will move on to the fun stuff. How do we take care of the coronavirus effects on the skin as it relates to staying at home, wearing a mask all the time? And I've been getting a lot of skin reports that want to attribute the causes of their skin problems to the mask, because we're in a world now where everyone thinks that skin issues are surface problems. And so once you realize that no, most skin issues actually come from within, it gets a little bit easier to manage. So let's start at the top of the list for the skin conditions I'm seeing. Number one, I need a drum roll. I need some sound effects for this podcast, don't I? The drum roll. Number one cause for skin issues in this phase of the quarantine is food preservatives. So there's an interesting thing about food preservatives, and a lot of them have an estrogen mimicking quality to them. So what that means is they tend to come out during your cycle. Usually about 7 to 10 days before your cycle, you start to feel a nodule underneath your jawline or along your jawline. This is typically going to be jawline, not the middle chin, but everything outside of your middle chin. The reason it's happening is because food preservatives are prevalent in long storage foods. So foods that last longer are usually chock full of food preservatives. And as a result of that, those little poisons go in, they damage your microbiome. The probiotics of your gut are damaged by them. They distort your hormone system. So ingesting or being exposed to a lot of them over time can affect fertility, menstrual cycles, cause a variety of other related symptoms, early menopause. But speaking to them from the skin perspective, they come out on your jawline. And the reason they come out is because when estrogenic food preservatives sit in your system and distort your hormones, they actually cause your natural estrogen level to decline. And a lot of people think that this can be supplemented. It really cannot. So your natural estrogen production diminishes as a protection mechanism to this estrogen toxin that came in this food. And you'll see this in cookies, in crackers, in frozen meals, just a host of different things that you can imagine. You could even see it in yogurts and dairy products, just a long list of foods, unfortunately. And a lot of these are the foods that we go to. Sometimes you might call them comfort foods. Sometimes what we're talking about is simply just foods that it's hard to find an alternative for, right? Unless you're growing fresh foods and or cooking fresh. Food preservatives are prevalent in our world in a big way. So there's this little peak moment that happens during your cycle where your testosterone bumps up. And it's at that moment that your body feels the separation of healthy testosterone levels, which you likely have, and unhealthy estrogen levels. So when you have a lowered estrogen caused by these estrogen toxins, the lower estrogen creates an imbalance. So now your progesterone is much higher than it should be compared to your estrogen. Your testosterone is much higher than it should be compared to your estrogen. I'm talking about relative levels. You don't need to go run off and get blood tests because oftentimes the blood tests don't even reflect the binding proteins. In other words, your estrogen level may be within normal limits, but a lot of it is not bioavailable because it has these hormone binding proteins that basically shut down its activity. So your body has lots of fascinating, highly complex mechanisms that try to keep you safe. In fact, it is a good thing, by the way. When your estrogen lowers, it's because if your estrogen stays normal and you have a ton of these estrogen toxins, you're at cancer risk. You're at risk for more serious issues, and your body literally is trying to protect you from that by lowering your estrogen. So what we want to do is pull the estrogen toxins out so that they are not lowering your estrogen. This makes the estrogen, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone balances normal again. Your menstrual cycle normalizes. You ovulate again, and you stop breaking out at that 1 week period before your cycle from this problem along the jawline. Jawline acne has always been called hormonal acne by skincare professionals and physicians alike, although no one's ever really explained what causes it. So hopefully this was of interest to you, and it is something that is increasing in the pandemic. Now, what we offer here at Osmosis is something called Skin Defense. Skin Defense contains activated charcoal, it contains DIM, it contains sodium thiosulfate, it contains a host of toxin processing, toxin removing substances all in one capsule. I think it's the best one on the market because it addresses heavy metals, it addresses these estrogen toxins better than anything else on the market, and it also addresses other toxins. So it's a complete detox kit from my perspective, even better than chelation therapy by IV. There's limitations to chelation therapy, believe it or not. So on that note, there's skin condition 1, hormonal breakouts along the jawline. A lot of people think their mask is irritating and creating some sort of infectious process locally, but more often than not, what's happening is the mask is irritating a purge in process. And so it bothers you and you're more reminded of it, and you might see more of it because you're eating more preserved foods. So solution number 1. Okay, solution number 2, and well, I should say skin condition number 2 is upper face acne. So acne is definitely becoming more prevalent during these quarantine times. A lot of people, again, going to sugar, eating more in general, I think is part of what happens when you're stuck at home. But also you tend to find yourself, reaching for foods that are easy, doing your sugar binges. It is so much easier. Let me speak personally for a second. It is so much easier to avoid your sugar feasting, your sugar binging, and all the desires that you might have when you're not at home, right? If you're able to go to work, keep busy at work, I know this is true for me, I can go through the day and not think about sugar ever. But if you're sitting at home that may be actually a different situation. And you're now like you've got sugar in this or that cabinet or in the freezer, and you're bored, and it's comfort food. So sugar is definitely one of the triggers for candida acne. So you may not be at this point too familiar with my philosophy. Let me just tell you that I believe acne is a toxin purge. In other words, your body is dumping something out of the follicle. This causes an inflammatory reaction. It can look like a little whitehead, which some people might call milia. It can look like a rash, or it can look like traditional acne, and it can look like cystic acne. All of them fall into the same category, toxins being purged. The bigger the lesion, the deeper the cyst, the more toxins got exposed in that moment. That is how we see it here at Osmosis. And after 20 years of doing this review, and after having completed a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial proving the concept that acne is not a bacterial infection, I can tell you with the ultimate confidence, really. I mean, we're just crushing it in this category. So let's explain the candida part. So what happens with candida? So candida is yeast. It's one of the yeast cells out there. There's actually 56 identified strains, and each one of those strains has its own impact on your body that is unique. So one strain causes eczema, another skin condition that is out there. So maybe I'll cover all the candida skin conditions here under this banner, because I am seeing more eczema happening right now, more flares of eczema, more flares of psoriasis. That's another candida strain condition. Sebaceous hyperplasia is caused by a strain of candida. Seborrheic dermatitis is caused by a strain of candida. So for many of you, if you are prone to any of these conditions, you may see a worsening of those, and it's explainable. It's explainable because of what I just said. Sugar is a big stimulant of candida, but the other stimulant you need to be made aware of to help your quarantine skin issues is mucus formation. So one of the main causes of mucus formation is fried food, and one of the other main causes is dairy. And so different people have different levels of sensitivity to these foods, but the net effect is they inflame the digestive tract. In response to that inflammation, the digestive tract forms mucus. And in response to mucus formation, the candida that's part of your natural microbiome, okay? So candida is a healthy part of your microbiome. It has a purpose other than to drive you nuts, and that is not well understood at this time. Now, that being said, in particular environments, candida becomes more encouraged. I mentioned a few of those. So one of them is that you eat those fried foods and dairy. The other one is that, and by the way, orange juice is another trigger of mucus. And then you also can get it from foods you're allergic to. So if someone's sensitive to gluten, that might increase mucus formation a little bit. Occasionally, people with postnasal drip will literally build up mucus because it's constantly adding mucus to their digestive system. So mucus formation, and by the way, how mucus formation shows up on your face during this time and always is as blackheads. So if you've noticed an increased number of blackheads around your nose or in your cheek zones, that is actually the purging of mucus toxins out of your skin. So that's a good way to track how you're doing. I know for a fact that if I take a good look at my skin, let's say one night, and then I head over to the freezer and grab myself a quart of ice cream, when I wake up in the morning, I will see a significant increase in blackheads on my skin. So that is mucus, and that is a trigger. And so usually if someone's going to start developing candida acne, which I'll tell you where it lies in a minute, they might start off by seeing more and more blackheads, more and more congested skin. So candida acne essentially shows up, and this is where I would encourage all of you to go to the osmosisbeauty.com webpage and take the skin quiz, because it'll show you, or look up in our wellness section, the skin map, so you can see the different organs and where they reflect on the skin, and you'll be able to connect everything and understand better how this works. But candida acne is essentially all the zones of the face except around the eyes and along the jawline, because the acne that you see along the jawline is a different type of acne, right? It's estrogen toxin food preservative acne. And everywhere else, when you see acne, it's 999 times out of 1,000, it's going to be caused by an increase in candida. So somebody might have just done a round of antibiotics. Well, antibiotics promote candida, and that can be the trigger. They might have gone on steroids, and the steroids inhibit their immune fighting ability. And so all of a sudden they start to develop worsening candida acne. They might have binged on some sweets for too long and or did a unique combination. Like, one of the reasons ice cream is so bad is because it not only promotes mucus, but it also feeds the sugar side of candida. So ice cream is definitely the most candida producing food on the planet, I'm pretty sure, which is a tragedy because it's also, in my view, one of God's great gifts. It's partially facetious there, but it's definitely one of my favorite foods. So that is candida acne. Shows up on the forehead, the temples, the cheeks, the nose. Different zones might show up. And each zone, if it shows up, it just means, oh, you had an overgrowth of candida in that zone. So sometimes it's helpful to know what zones are being affected. And so this is another quarantine event where people are developing new breakouts in their forehead, in between their eyebrows, on their nose, on their cheeks. And when I say on their cheeks all the way down to about an inch above the jawline should be included. Okay, more exciting skin conditions from the world of quarantine. One of the most common ones coming out right now is eyelid irritation. And this was a big one for me. It was a discovery that I made a few years ago that stress is the trigger for eyelid flaking and redness, and even really, and I'm talking mainly upper eyelid, by the way, upper eyelid, although I think the lower lid can be included, but not the zone that we consider the upper cheek that merges into your upper lid, if you will. So that zone is kidney. And that's another zone not showing up that commonly in this quarantine skin phase, but definitely something you can look at the map on Osmosis Beauty to see about it. Now, let's get back to the stress. So where it gets kind of cool with the stress, because test it for yourself. It's pretty remarkable. We don't always realize that how much our thoughts impact our skin and our health. I mean, there are studies out there, of course, that show people with breast cancer recover better when they are happy as opposed to anxious or depressed. And we haven't really said the medical reasons for that, but the summary of the medical reason is that thoughts have energy and energy impacts your body. And so when you think a thought of anger or shame or, anxiety, these are the main thoughts that they push a wave of inflammation into your system. You probably could trigger cortisol measurements showing the body's like, oh, we just got inflamed. Put the cortisol out to moderate that inflammation. And it can show up on your skin in interesting ways. So one of the things I learned out of all of this was that the left side of your body can be more influenced by feminine things. We're going to keep it broad for a minute. And the right side of your body is more influenced by masculine things. Now, still, learning and researching how that shows up in, acne on the left cheek versus the right cheek, and if that's really still a thing. But here's how it shows up on the eyelids. When I see people whose eyelids are freaking out from, let's say, job loss, that's a big one right now, right? It's both their eyelids that freak out. So it's a general stress is what I call it. And when I see people who have eyes freaking out from a death in the family, generally that's going to be general stress, or someone's sick in the family, or that's generally going to be both eyelids involved. Financial problems, things like that. Now, if you are having a battle with a daughter, sister, or mother, your left eye is going to be freaking out. And if you are having a battle with a brother, son, or father, your right eye will be freaking out. I swear to you, this is going to be true almost every time. It's so fascinating to me to watch. So the reason why I think it's important and why these tells matter is because it allows you the opportunity, especially during quarantine time, to be able to do some introspection, do some healing, do some forgiveness. Take this moment to recognize that what's happening to your body is because of the thoughts that are rolling around in your head. The thoughts are diminishing who you are, and that's why it's having an impact. So you've got to take the time and process. Now, one of the ways we can help you with that is I make an elixir called Emotional Well-Being. And it has worked in, I would say, 99 out of 100 cases. Like I want to say 9 out of 10, but it's higher than that. Like almost everybody it works on. And the way that it works is really different. And you just have to have an open mind for this. But it's working energetically to interfere with how the thought waves are transmitting to your physical body. So the main purpose of it originally was for people who had stress-induced IBS, which this may apply to you today, or stress-induced skin breakouts, or stress-induced stuttering, or sweating, hyperhidrosis, although I do actually have a separate treatment for that. So yeah, it's really fascinating. Sometimes what that means is you might have some intense emotions for up to 2 weeks. Literally, emotional detox occurs as your body lets the emotion out as opposed to burying it. And that is really the unique thing about this. Now, topically on those eyelids, I like either Rescue, Osmosis is Rescue, or Remedy. They're both very unique products that can work on inflammation from 2 different pathways. And then just process, heal it, take this opportunity to take that tell of your eyelids and use it to move to the next phase of your life where you're not punishing yourself anymore for past events or past relationships or whatever it is that's triggering you. Now, if you're being triggered in both eyes by a, let's say, job loss and it's stressing you out, well, this will pass, and you take emotional well-being, and honestly, your eyelids should heal just from that alone. But I just want you to know it's not eczema. And so that's another big skin issue that comes out a lot of the time. Let's see, are there any other major skin issues? Yes, there's one other category of skin issues that are occurring a lot in the pandemic phase, and that is rosacea. And this is because rosacea is caused by digestive problems. So the types of foods we've just been talking about that could be hard on your system, the impact stress is having on your digestive system. Maybe you're consuming more alcohol, which worsens the inflammation of the digestive tract. There's actually a ton of people where their candida is the cause of their rosacea. And so all the foods we talked about earlier that influence candida can influence your rosacea and make it worse. So how do we treat this? Well, in this situation, we're looking at a mucus cleanse. And this is also true for the acne, candida acne, all the conditions related to candida that I listed off. So you're doing a mucus cleanse. And if you don't see pretty dramatic results of your mucus cleanse and a clearing of your blackheads after one dose, then you're one round, which is a 10-day cleanse, then you need to do a second cleanse. Some people actually need 3 cleanses. If you're someone with long battling psoriasis, for example, or eczema, go ahead and do 3 cleanses. And you also want to get on our elixir called Skin Perfection for acne and rosacea. It treats the candida. It helps calm the digestive tract. So the combination of Skin Clarifier and Skin Perfection, pretty remarkable when it comes to healing of those conditions. Don't burn your face. So many people think if they have acne, they need to burn it because it's infected. This is not true. Let me prove that to you. As it relates to candida rosacea, I've just given you the protocol, and you use Rescue topically for that. But when it comes to rosacea from other causes, you might find what emotional well-being helps because the emotions are what are triggering a worsening of your symptoms. And so you might be asking, well, how do I know what's causing my particular rosacea? Well, don't hesitate to write in and ask that question. My email is drben@osmosisbeauty.com. I'm sure you will find a way to reach me. You can reach out to Osmosis directly and find me or one of our helpful staff to help you through that. But yeah, there are some other causes of rosacea, and some people are seeing the small intestine zone, which is a zone just next to the nostril. Well, a little bit to the side of the nostrils. That can be that's your small intestine, and that can be caused by SIBO, which could worsen during this time. And that is a condition I want you to write me about for the protocol. It's a little bit more complex. And then I feel like I had another skin condition I wanted. Generalized rosacea from other causes. Listen, if you're not seeing rosacea pattern on the whole face and you're just seeing it in an isolated zone, don't hesitate to reach out to me. This is what I'm here for. I'm trying to help people empower themselves and empower their recovery through cleaning the slate. Okay, so I come back to a very common theme here, which is your skin wants to thrive. It's perfectly capable of thriving. You just have to remove the pathogens, toxins, and emotions that are the trigger for the vast majority of skin issues and health issues, for that matter, that are out there today. I'm going to leave it on a general statement, which is, look, you could find yourself in a lot of different compromising situations when it comes to your health and your skin during this time. If you are ever a question mark as to what direction to go, if your intuition is not guiding you properly, and I'm a big supporter of intuition being the only honest voice in your head. And the trick is to distinguish between your ego mind telling you something and your intuition telling you something. And the more you ground and the more you remain introspective during this time, the more clarity you're going to get as to the true voice that's speaking to you, the divine intuition that I see it as. So take all of that and do your best with it. We're going to get deeper into some of these other skin conditions, so we'll cover other stuff. If I didn't catch the skin condition that's plaguing you during these quarantine times, again, don't hesitate to reach out. As always, we want you to like this podcast and share it with your friends if you think it'll help them. But otherwise, I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ask Dr. Ben. Please leave a review if you can, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts to get access to all of my upcoming episodes. My website is osmosisbeauty.com, and you can find me on Facebook at Osmosis Beauty. And you can also follow me on Instagram at osmosis_beauty. Thanks for listening.